Let's talk about how we can change patterns and then save those changes into new patterns. So right now, the way WordPress works is you either have a synced pattern or just a regular pattern, and everything that I've added through your theme. So inside of patterns, these creator ones, these are all non-synced patterns. So synced patterns are mostly the ones that you guys, well, we created for launch, and you'll see that those are purple. So whenever you insert one of these patterns that is a non-synced pattern, it's basically just like inserting it one off. It's not connected to anything, and any changes that you make to it won't be reflected in future or previous versions of that pattern. So if you wanted to make a pattern that was different from the original, so we've got this original one here that's full width, and then maybe I want one that's no longer full width, but otherwise is exactly the same, then I can save a new pattern that has this that'll make it easier for me to go in and insert versions that are no longer full width for any of these future patterns that I'm inserting. So this is my original. This is the no longer full width. Let's just look at what those are like. There's my original. Here's the change on the front end. I can see that it's working the way I want it to. And then I want to make a pattern for this one down here. This one, like, you can't tell that it is already a pattern. So you could accidentally resave patterns because this doesn't say anywhere that this came from a pattern. Like, patterns right now are just for inserting. And then once it's inserted, it's essentially just blocks. It's no longer a pattern. But if I want to be able to easily insert a new set of blocks, something like this, that is no longer full width, then I can create a new pattern by just clicking on these buttons here and creating pattern. And then I want to turn off synced because this is just like a starting point for where I'll be working and changing things. So I don't want to have like this content update everywhere across all of my pages. I'm just looking to create, like, I made this new design, or let's say even like, this is a small example, it's no longer full width, but we could also just kind of like rebrand it a little. These are default buttons, so let me just change those colors to look something more like this. I don't want that to be red. I want it to be black. And now it kind of looks like I have a whole new block. And so if I wanted to save this, and I personally want to save it without any content in it because that'll make it easier to fill out in the future. You guys could definitely add images if you're doing it through, if you're creating a pattern through the database. I'm pretty sure that you can add images just fine in patterns. All of the patterns that I create don't have images because they would then be tied to your theme. So if you ever switch themes later, those images would disappear. So I make sure that anything, even if I know that the same image is going to be used 100 times, I take it out of your theme so that it's always tied to your database. I believe if you're creating these new patterns, they're going directly through your database, and so you can use images and preset text in here if you want. But let's say this is my pattern. I'm going to come in here, create pattern. I want it to be unsynced. And then I wish I knew what that other one was called, but for now I'm just going to call it new pattern. And you can put it in any category you want. It automatically adds it to my patterns. So there'll be a category over here called like my patterns, and it automatically adds it to that. But if you wanted to put it inside of like creator custom, for example, you could click that and it would automatically include it in there as well. So I'm going to leave it without any category right now. It says it was created, new pattern. And then whenever I want to edit my patterns in the future, there's a couple ways I can do that. But from the post itself, I think that the easiest way to do that is to go to Tools, Manage Patterns. You can get to the same page through some different methods, such as going to Site Editor and then like navigating to this area. But this is where you'll find all of your patterns. The locked ones are being added through your theme, and so those can't be edited, but you can, of course, clone any of those, insert it, change it like we just did, save your own pattern, and then those will show up inside of my patterns here. And of course, any other categories that you assign them to. So from new pattern here, I could come in and now I could edit this so that future instances look different, or I can change this title, which I think I want to do. I'm going to leave it on here for you guys. All patterns. I'm looking for creator custom. I want to find the name and then just, okay, so this is manual product And then we have like manual product columns. I'm just going to call this manual products alt. So I go into my patterns. I want to give it a better name. We'll do manual products alt. Is that right? Yeah. Sorry, there are a lot of categories I'm clicking around. Okay, so this one looks like it's been saved and it looks good. I could click on it and then I'd be able to edit it. One thing I do think is really confusing here is that when you're in this editor, you cannot tell if it's full width or not. And in this particular case, it's not. But you really cannot tell that from here at all. I think it's because of where it's being edited. So you probably have to save it with that width that you want. Let's try inserting it now that we have it as a pattern and double check that it's inserting the way I want. So I'm going to insert at the top, patterns, my patterns, manual products alt, and it is not showing as full width, which is perfect. So it is a little weird. You can't edit that in the actual editor here. Probably a bug that needs to get sorted out. But in the meantime, at least you could save a new one and then delete the other one if something like that really had to be changed for some reason. I hope this was enlightening. I hope you guys love patterns. I find that they're super, super useful and you can create really pretty designs. So if you guys find yourself like changing one of the patterns that we started with in your theme regularly to include, let's say one of the ones I mentioned that like it's always going to have the same icon at the top, you could save that as a pattern specifically that includes that icon. Or if you're making a lot of color changes, you could save that alternate color version.